How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the All Things Liverpool podcast with me, Anish Dogra. And of course, we are now exactly 24 hours away from historically the biggest game of in English football, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Of course, two teams with brilliant history, lots of trophies, won every trophy, in fact, and of course, the two most successful teams in this country. And of course, it will be an interesting game tomorrow, given the start of the season both teams have had. Technically, it's also a bit of a relegation six-pointer, and of course, there's a bit of a joke. But obviously, both teams do need the points they do to get their seasons up on track, and really give themselves a confidence booster going into the upcoming games. So lots to get through over the next half an hour, 40 minutes. And of course, we'll be reviewing the game against Palace from Monday, discussing a couple of transfer rumours, particularly in midfield, which of course is the position that we have been talking about for a long time now. And of course, we'll preview the Manchester United game to finalise the podcast. So to get into it, let's start talking about the Palace game. And in terms of the performance, I was actually very happy with it. I thought it was everything that I expected Liverpool to do after the poor performance and result against Fulham. Of course, against Fulham, we weren't at it. We weren't winning second balls. We weren't aggressive. We weren't, competing on the same mentality as Fulham were in that game. And we were lucky to get a draw from that match. But against Palace, particularly the first 20-25 minutes, I expected us to come out all guns blazing, win the ball higher, win it aggressively, create chances, shoot on sight, and we did all of that. And particularly with Harvey Elliott, who I was very happy to see him start and come into the first 11 in the absence of Thiago, who of course was injured against Fulham, and he really set the tone. I thought he was bright, aggressive. I really every time we lost the ball or Palace won the ball back, he was one of the first players to win it, and was a bit unlucky to not score. In fact, I think there were a couple of moments in the first 10 minutes where I think he had a shot blocked after doing some really good work to get into a shooting position, and I think there was one other where he couldn't hit the target. But he was fantastic. And I thought, just in general, our the way we were playing was really good. I thought Trent on the right was delivering some fantastic passes, as we know he can, and as he often does. And I was really impressed with James Milner. In fact, I actually thought he set the tempo quite well. Nat Phillips as well. Like, of course, we all know how the goal came, and we all know how it was going to come because of his lack of pace. But whenever he had to deal with a situation, whether it's winning a header, winning a tackle, intercepting, or reading a piece of play, he did that very well. So I thought the performance until we went 1-0 down was very good. But as soon as we went 1-0 down, that was always going to be a problem, because, like I said, with Phillips, with that lack of pace, it was always going to be a problem. And Eze, who I thought was unbelievable in that match, he absolutely, I think for me, he was man of the match. I'm not sure if he won the award, but I definitely thought he deserved to win it. He was unbelievable. The goal he scored, or the goal he created rather, was fantastic. The way he skipped around Fabinho, who, to be fair, actually, I think Fabinho should have done better, but you got to give credit to the attacker in that situation, and Eze did very well. And the way to pass was perfect. The timing of the pass to make sure that Zaha was on side was very good. And just in general, his overall performance was very impressive. So a great piece of play by him to create the goal. And then as for the goal itself, an excellent finish from Zaha, because if you watch that goal again, never mind the finish, but if you watch Van Dijk's action, I think that's probably the best way to break down this goal. Van Dijk, he covers the ground, like he covers for Phillips, which is fine, and he gets there. And we all know how quick Van Dijk is when he puts on his afterburners, and he gets there. But he slows down, thinking that there's no way Zaha can score from that angle. There's only one way. There's only one position really that Zaha can score, and it's in that far corner. And given Alisson, obviously, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, probably the best in the Premier League, you would back Alisson 9 times out of 10 to save that shot. But you got to give credit to Zaha. Van Dijk maybe shouldn't have underestimated him, because he does have that in his locker, the Palace forward, and it was a really, really good goal, and you got to give credit to him. You know, the way he placed it perfectly. I think he clipped the inside of the post as well. And normally Alisson would save that, and normally Zaha might not even finish that well. But you got to give credit to him. It was a really, really good strike and a fantastic goal for them. So for Palace, their game was played out perfectly. You know, they soaked up our pressure. They played deep, and then they got the ball to Eze, who, of course, is a very skillful player. And then with Zaha's pace, they were always going to be a threat, and it worked for them. So their plan worked, and it was up to us to find the answers. And of course, it was still going to be a struggle, of course, with Nunes still settling in, and with a few players out with injury. But even then, right at the end of the half, I say we were unlucky not to score, but in reality, we should have scored. Elliot, again, who was the star in that game, and the star for us at least, brilliant clip pass over the top of that Palace defense. And then Nunes, he should score. So it's simple as that. You know, the defender, I think it was Kouyaté, their new signing, who did quite well to make the chance more difficult. But a player of that caliber, and given the goals he's already scored in his first 2 games, he should have buried it. Should have had a bit more confidence and just be a bit more firm in his decision. And if he'd done so, we would have gone in level 1-1. And obviously for him, and what happened in the second half, he would have been going into it really hungry and really, really fired up. And then, of course, we've got to talk about the incident, and there's no way to say it. It's just complete stupidity from him. He knows it. Everyone knows it. There's no debate from anyone, and there will be no debate over his decision. And it's, in a way, you can maybe look at it in a positive, in the sense that it is a learning curve for him. He's coming to a new league. He's maybe not experienced how defenders are. Defenders in the Portuguese league and in La Liga when he was playing for Almeria. Defenders there, they may not be as in your ear, as annoying, as irritating as they are in the Premier League. And clearly, Joachim Andersen and the rest of the Palace defense did a very good job of riling him up. But that's the case of any defender when they come up against attacker. You got to do little things here and there just to get in their head, try to, put their game off. And Anderson did a fantastic job, and then Nunes foolishly reacted and lost his head, pardon the pun, and got himself sent off. So a really foolish moment, but I think he understands what it is now to be in the Premier League. It's not just about the physicality and the intensity of it, but the other side of it, the dark arts of the game, and how every defender will try to do as much as they can to put you off, to make you feel like you're insignificant, and to make you feel that you're not a good player. And unfortunately, on that occasion, he fell for it. But now he's got a couple of weeks to dwell on that error, to realize, okay, I can't do this anymore, and to come back a better player. And in fact, with the 3 games that he now will miss, so of course he won't be playing against Manchester United on Monday, against Bournemouth next Saturday, and against Newcastle the following Wednesday. Excuse me. So in that time, in the next couple of weeks, he'll have some a real contemplating period, to make sure that I don't make this kind of mistake, and more so to get used to his teammates, because whilst he has made a good start, Nunes, getting the 2 goals against Man City in the Shield and Fulham on the opening day, there's still room for development. It's the same with like any new player who comes to a new team. You see with Sterling at Chelsea, he's still like settling in and getting used to a new formation, new system. Same with Erling Haaland. And to be fair, the only one who's really hit the ground running is Jesus. But it doesn't always work out immediately for every player, and it does take time. So for Nunes, for these next 2 weeks and the next 3 games, a great chance for him to really really knuckle down, really show Klopp in training that I am the man for this position. I am the man to be starting up top instead of Firmino, instead of Jota when he does return, and really showcase that I will be the main man for Liverpool, and I will be able to deliver the goods. So a moment for him to learn. And obviously, as for the game itself, it definitely felt like at that moment, given how dangerous Palace looked on the counter attack, it felt like this is going to be it. We're going to lose our unbeaten record. Of course, we haven't lost at home since March 21, so over a year now, which is of course a good run. and obviously down to 10 men, and a real goal scorer, of course. Losing a player who would have a chance of finding the net, but Diaz, who of course has been an unbelievable player since coming in from Porto in January. He settled in incredibly well in those few months when he came in, and then this season, I was talking about how he needs to go to the next level now, and the kind of movements that he does to to get a shot off. When he cuts inside, beats a couple of players, and tries to bend into that far corner. He constantly does it. It was a bit unlucky on occasions last season. Sometimes you hit the post, or the keeper would make a save, or it would be a couple of yards wide. But on this occasion, he absolutely nailed it, didn't he? The way he received the ball, not one player, not two, not three, but I think it's like four players, and then to be traveling at that speed as well and to get your shot off, it's one of the hardest skills to do, because ordinarily, if you're traveling at that pace, you can obviously get a good contact on the ball, but more often than not, you will very rarely get that much bend on it and be able to get it to curl inside the post. But it's a testament to him. It's a testament to obviously the practice he's putting in. So, clearly, the way that goal happened, he has been working hard on it. He has been, going through it in training and making sure that it does end up in the back of the net rather than, being saved or hitting the post. And it was a wonderful goal, an absolutely superb strike. Obviously, hopefully up there for Goal of the Month contender, and one that, deservedly put us level, because we didn't deserve to lose. As good as Palace were defensively and as threatening as they were on the counter attack, I still felt our performance did not merit a goal. I think we definitely created enough. We definitely made the keeper work on a couple of occasions, and definitely had good shooting opportunities where we should have hit the target. So it was a really good performance, and one that I was happy with after the result against Fulham, and of course the build up to the game as well. It was a pretty terrible week with Firmino getting a little knock, Joe Gomez getting a little knock, of course Matip being ruled out for a couple of weeks, and I think Henderson was also suffering a little bit as well. So to have that kind of week where nothing's really going for you, everything in training seemed pretty damn awful, and obviously in the game 1-0 down, one man down, and then you produce a piece of quality and you get yourself level. And even then, even when we had 10 men, Palace were the ones who were still having all their players behind the ball, and we were the one who were scoring. So obviously Salah had a good chance, which was saved. Not saved, sorry, it just went wide. And when Simicast came on, he was in a lot of good opportunities to put a ball in, but obviously just coming back from injury and coming into the match, his delivery wasn't quite on point that it normally is. So of course, annoying on that occasion, but we can forgive him for it, given they just came back. And if there were to be a team who was going to win the match, it would have been us. Of course, Palace nearly won the game as well. I think Zaha hit the post again. I think after a free kick or something, or a ball from wide went in. So that, of course, they looked threatening, but we, perhaps were unlucky not to win the game. But the most pleasing thing was the performance. And whilst you can look at it from the first two games where we've only picked up 2 draws, and it's the first time in Klopp's tenure that on the opening 2 games he's failed to not win at least one of them. So of course, a new record for us, albeit unwanted. But the most important thing was looking at it at a different angle, in the sense that Fulham, yes, we didn't play well, but we didn't lose. We salvaged the point. Palace played very well, had to play with 10 men and had a lot of injuries, but we still managed to get something from the game. And that's something you got to, for Klopp and for the staff, they got to, pick up the players, saying you've done this, even though the chips were kind of down a bit. So reasons to be positive, and given the week that we've now had, so of course the game was on Monday night, and we've now had 7 whole days to rest up, to get players back and to prepare. I think the mood going into the Manchester United game is a little bit better. Of course, Firmino is ready. Klopp said that in this press conference a couple of days ago. Joe Gomez the same, and Jordan Henderson. So touch wood, nothing happens to them in the next 24 to 48 hours, and they all train very well, and they don't suffer any knocks in the build-up, and of course don't have any issues in the game itself. So 3 players there having back, which is great. And of course, 1 week closer to having the likes of Jota back. Of course, Naby Keita was on the bench against Palace. He didn't come on, but I expect him to start on. I do expect him to start tomorrow night. And of course we'll have more options as well in defence. But Gomez available, and even a choice at left back. Maybe Tsimikas might come in for Robbo, who I think he's not had a brilliant start to the season, Robbo. Like he hasn't looked his quiet self. Maybe he's still feeling a bit tired from last season, and of course with Scotland over the summer when they obviously qualified for the World Cup. So maybe a chance for Tsimikas to come in and get some game time and give Robbo a bit of a rest. So of course we'll see how it goes tomorrow, and hopefully we come out with it with a big result and obviously a big win. And against your biggest rivals, it's just what you need to really kickstart your season. But just before we go into the Man United game, so Palace, good result, could have been better, could have been worse, and we'll take the point, move on. Now about the midfield, which of course is a ongoing conversation. It's not going to stop until we do sign some midfielders. Of course, our current state of play with our current midfield is that they are coming towards, I wouldn't say the end of their careers, but definitely on the way down, you could say. You look at the likes of Thiago, who of course is still an unbelievable player, but very injury prone and is 30 plus. Henderson, the same. He's still good. He still offers a lot to the team, but he's kind of developing into that Milner kind of role where he'll be used more sporadically going forward. Of course, this season he'll still be used quite heavily, given how the situation we're still in. But going forward, he'll be used less and less. Milner, you don't expect him to be playing for much longer. And Fabinho, of course, now approaching his 30th birthday. Of course, still has a few more years left in him. But again, position is where we got to change, where we got to rotate. And then you look at some of the other younger players. You look at Keita, who's obviously in his mid-20s. Oxlade-Chamberlain in his late 20s. Of course, their futures are far from certain. And then, of course, the younger guys, Carvalho, Harvey Elliott, who are still progressing. So a lot of change that needs to be done. And given that what's been going on away from the pitch with regards to some of our midfielders, you expect something that could potentially happen in the next 9-10 days now left of the transfer window, and particularly with Naby Keita. So of course, one player who hasn't signed a new deal. I think one of the only main first teamers who only has 12 months left on his contract. Ox is the same, but I think we all expect Ox to leave next summer. But with Keita, of course, came in for 40-50 million in 2018, I think. Hasn't lived up to it. Has been really injury prone. Never really been able to show consistency in terms of form, in terms of fitness, and everything really, sadly. So of course, it hasn't been great. It hasn't, worked out as well as we would liked. And given the number he took, the number rated, which of course belonged to Gerrard, we would have hoped that we would have seen performances like Stevie, but unfortunately, it's not been the case. And of course, given what's been coming out in the rumors, that he's unhappy with, I think the new contract that they offered, or I think it's the lack of assurances over game time, which for me, I think the club is right to be giving the contract that they have offered, because Keita, he's not warranted. In fact, for me, he's not been warranted a new contract. If it was up to me, I think if it was up to a lot of Liverpool fans, he would have gone this summer. And we wouldn't make a profit, or we wouldn't even make our money back, but we could still maybe get 20 million for him, or something close to that. But I think Klopp still wants to keep him. I think he still feels he can get something out of him. But I just don't see where. Of course, I don't doubt Klopp. I don't doubt one bit, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Keita now has, one of the best seasons of his life. And I hope that has the case. And I do hope, and all of us hope that we are wrong about him, and he does prove his worth. But from what we've seen, from what he's done, it just doesn't seem the case. And of course, if he is unhappy, he doesn't really, like the Premier League. And like we've seen with Timo Werner, obviously going back to Leipzig now, he might just, want to go back to a place where he was very good and where he can enjoy football again. And if that's the case, then I think, we shouldn't stand in his way. We should let him go and reinvest in our money. And of course, whatever we get for him, if we do get anything for him, it seems unlikely that he will go. I think Liverpool would rather keep him this summer and lose him for free rather than cash in on him now. But if that is the case, we've of course been linked with a couple of new midfielders in the last couple of days, and particularly two in particular. three in particular. In fact, I'm just looking here. Sander Berge from Sheffield United, Moises Caicedo from Brighton, and Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa. So 3 players who, of course, obviously do fit the profile. All action, combative. Can score a goal, can put a tackle in, can run a lot and put in the yards. And with Sander Berge, of course, came into Sheffield United, I think, in 2020. So he had 1 season in the Premier League, and then obviously they went down at the beginning or at the end of 2020-21, and they have been in the Championship for the last season, and obviously they'll hope to come back up at the end of this season. But one player, of course, who could be good. I'll be honest. I'm not seeing too much of him. Obviously, in his first season in the Premier League, I think he struggled. But of course, any player will struggle in their first season. It doesn't always work out. But I think from what Sheffield United fans have been saying about him in the Championship, he's really developed his game. He's not just a holding midfielder. He's much more fluid, far more box to box, can get a goal. So if that is the case, if we are to get him from Sheffield United, and whilst obviously a lot of fans might sneer at the fact that again we're buying from the Championship, we're buying low quality or supposed low quality, you just have to look at our transfer record really, and look at the players that we have signed from the Championship in the past. Wijnaldum was relegated with Newcastle, Robertson at Hull, and Fabio Carvalho, Harvey Elliott, we both brought in from the Championship too. So if that is the case, obviously you have to trust the transfer committee. You know how well we've done so far with signing the players and how hard they scout before this, thinking that yes, this is the right player. And with Jurgen Klopp's comments about the transfer window and about signing players, he's always adamant that it's not been about the money, which of course might be true or not. We don't know if he's covering FSG. But his statement is that if the right player is there, if he fits the profile, we will try to go for him. And if Sander Berge fits that profile, then by all means, obviously, it will be welcome addition. It will be a new midfielder at the club, and obviously a younger player as well, which will bring down the squad. And in fact, I think I was told something the other day that we now actually have the oldest average age squad in the Premier League, which of course is understandable when you think about when this team was assembled in 2018. Van Dijk was still in his mid-20s, Alisson the same, Fabinho too. Henderson was in his late 20s. Salah, Firmino, of course, in their mid-20s as well. And Robert and Trent were I think teenagers or 2021. So of course they are obviously a lot older now, and they have been together for a long while. So it is about refreshing that squad, bringing in younger players, bringing in fresh legs. And if Sander Berge is one of those players, then by all means, I would absolutely love it. And same goes for Moises Caicedo, and that is one for me who actually does excite me a lot. So I watched Brighton for the first 2 games of the season against Manchester United, and I think they played their second game against Newcastle, and he was spectacular. He was everything that Wijnaldum was, essentially. Box to box, won the ball, protected his back four, helped out the forward front 3, and did everything that you would want from a midfielder. And if he does come in, it will be a fantastic addition. And of course, there has been a few rumors here and there. Grizz Khan, who many of you may have heard, he's said that Liverpool have made an inquiry. My mistake, in fact, it's not an inquiry for him, Moises Caicedo, but there have been rumors about from various places, from journalists in South America, who of course obviously Caicedo, I think he's Ecuadorian. So obviously people in that country may know more. Whether it's true or not is obviously a big question. But there has been links, and hopefully it will one of those links will come true. And I think the fee might be between 40 and 50 million, which of course in this day and age is pretty much the going rate now for a good player. And if that's the case, then obviously it will be a brilliant addition. So that's Caicedo, and of course I hope that he comes in. And I think Manchester United have been looking at him. I think Arsenal have been too. So clearly, top clubs do think he's got talent, and hopefully we can beat them to sign him. And then lastly, of course, Jacob Ramsey, who for me is a real star. I've been watching him for Aston Villa for quite a while now. I remember he had a real purple patch last season where he was scoring. He was linking up really well with Coutinho, making those runs into the box, and really showing that he can be a real special talent. Of course, that kind of addition will be far more difficult to bring in, given that Villa have already lost Carney Chukwuemeka to Chelsea. And I think like some of the fees that were being reported was like £60 million, which for an unproven player is a lot of money and obviously a big risk. So for me, if he were to come in, and obviously if we were to pay the money, you'd have to again trust the transfer committee, believe that they will do, they have done their research and he will be a good fit. And of course, given the age of all those three players, all very young, they can be molded. And that's, of course, the most important thing when we buy players. They can fit into our system. They can change their style of play and, fit into the way we play and the way we play and the way Klopp wants his midfielders to perform. So let's see what happens in the next 10 days with Keita's future and with those three players, if any, come in. Who knows? Maybe even two of them will come in. Unlikely, but you can hope. And then, of course, now we will talk about the Manchester United game coming in less than 24 hours now. Of course, the greatest game in history, in English history, given how many trophies these teams have won. They of course won 20 titles. We've got 19. 6 European Cups for us and 3 for them. So a lot of history. And of course, in terms of the game, so we've spoken about the players who could be available, or in fact will be available, and could start. So Firmino, Henderson, and Joe Gomez, who I do all expect to come into the first team tomorrow, and to hopefully have a big impact. And in terms of the team that I'd play, so of course, Addison in goal, Trent at right back, Gomez and Van Dijk. And I actually wouldn't mind if Tsimikas started tomorrow, just again, to really give Robbo a break. Of course, it is a big match, and I do expect Robbo to start and then maybe be rested for the next couple of games against Bournemouth and against Newcastle. But if Tsimikas were to come in, he's had a whole week of training now. He's obviously a lot sharper, a lot fitter, and of course, the only way to really get match fitness is by playing in a match. So if he were to come in, I wouldn't mind it, and I hope that if he does, he'll put in a good display. Obviously, he'd probably be coming up against Sancho, and I think it'll be Dallo on Man United's right channel and on our left. So hopefully, if he does come in, he'll have the tools to really control that side down and put in the good shift. But with that being said, I do expect Robert to play, and I also wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a formation change tomorrow. I think Fabinho will start, and I think it'll be Henderson. But I think rather than us playing a 4-3-3, I wouldn't be surprised if we go for the double, midfield pivot with a 4-2-3-1 instead. And I think what could happen and what could be quite likely is that Henderson plays on that left defensive mid, and Fabinho on that right. And then with that front four, I think Diaz, of course, will be a shoe-in. I think Firmino will start, but I wouldn't be surprised if Firmino plays in that number 10 role like he has done in the past. And then I think it'll be Harvey Elliott on the right, where, of course, he has played and where he typically plays on he plays a right in the midfield 3, but I think he can also equally play as a right midfielder. And then up top, I think Salah might get a position change. I think we could move him up top, just to really use that pace, and up against Maguire, who of course I think will start tomorrow, but with that lack of pace that he has, hopefully Salah will be able to exploit it. So I think we probably will line up with a 4-3-3, and I think it will be Hendo and Elliott and Fabinho in that midfield, but Elliott rather as a centre mid, and Hendo as a left centre mid rather than a defensive mid, and of course a front three of Firmino in the false nine, and then Salah and Diaz either side of him. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does go with with a bit of a change. Even Carvalho could come in that number 10, and maybe Firmino might stay out, and Salah could play up top. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting, and I think again, given what we've done to them in the last couple of years, of course we won 4-2 in the year without no fans. Of course, I think that was Jurgen Klopp's first ever win at Old Trafford, and then last season 5-0 at their ground with Salah getting a hat trick. And just a side note, he could also I think equal the record for the most goals by a Liverpool player in that fixture. So he's on 9. I think Gerrard holds the record with 10. So of course it'll be a great achievement for him to equal that record tomorrow, and hopefully for us to surpass it if he gets 2 goals. So it'll hopefully be the case. But in terms of us and in terms of the magnitude of the match, again, it's not about taking the opponent as a giant, because they are not a good team right now. Of course, there's nothing, we've seen how they played the first few games. They've deserved everything that they've been given with the results against Brighton, who probably should have won by more, and against Brentford, who absolutely obliterated them. And given that we play the game, we play the players who we're up against an out of form team, against a team low on confidence, and a team who remembers what we did to them last season, we should win the match. It's as simple as that. But with this game and with the derby games and real big matches, you never know how they will go. And for Manchester United, and typically I think it's always been a saying in the past where who would you want to be your next opponent if you're in a bad run of form? And everyone always says you want your fiercest rivals because you just get up for that game. You want to be an intense match. It means so much to the supporters, and B, you just automatically play better. It's just a fact. Of course, players will always get up for the big matches, and I do expect Manchester United to be a lot better tomorrow. But it's just up to us to make sure we are stand by our authority, take out their early pressure, because I do expect them to start fast and start strong and just really assert our dominance. Getting an early goal will of course help, as we did last season. And I think really just showing what we can do, showing why we were so close to winning 4 trophies last season, and showing why we are one of the best teams in the world. And of course, given the result that happened today between Newcastle and Man City, of course Newcastle put in an unbelievable performance, went 3-1 up with 3 brilliant goals, a real team display. And of course, Man City, they do have incredible quality. I don't think they were ever going to end on 1 goal in the match. They were always going to score, and then if they got 3-2, they were probably going to get a 3-3. And credit to Newcastle for holding strong to keeping them out again. Nick Pope, brilliant goalkeeper. I think for me should be England's number 1. Really, made some incredible saves to deny Haaland, and did very well from set pieces. So Newcastle are doing us a big favor, making Man City drop points for the first time this season, and giving us an extra bit of motivation, to really kickstart our season, to get us onto 5 points, and to close that gap. Of course, points at this stage, of course, they matter, but things like the title race and keeping in touch with your rivals, they don't matter right now, given how early in the season we are. But given how Man City are, given how many points it takes now to win a Premier League title, every time they drop a point, you've got to capitalize on it. So hopefully that's the case tomorrow. Hopefully we put in our absolute best and really kickstart our season. And of course, if we were to win tomorrow, it would make the mood really, really great around the club. Everyone will be on a high. And then going into Anfield next Saturday against Bournemouth, we'll be feeling a lot better. So hopefully we come away with 3 points. Hopefully we can do our best and come away unscathed, and of course put in a really good performance. So anyway, that is all we've got for today. I hope you've all enjoyed this podcast. We'll of course be back again next week with another similar kind of video where we'll be of course reviewing the Manchester United game, and of course previewing Bournemouth, and then talking about anything else that goes on off the field during the week. So thank you all for watching. I hope you've all enjoyed, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.